Hey guys, this is Cory from CoryBakerFilmmaker.com, and today I'm going to review Proud Mary, written by Stuart, Newman, Swegal, Steve Antin, and directed by Babak Najafi. So first of all, much like usual, I caught this movie at the Regal LA Live. Because Proud Mary had been out for a little while, I ended up going all the way to the back of the theater to one of the upstairs rooms, which should be a pretty good indication that the movie that you're about to watch is not going to be in theaters for much longer. But obviously Regal is Regal. Same solid movie-going experience that I always have when I go taking a movie there. On to Proud Mary. Basic idea here is that Taraji Henson plays a hitwoman named Mary for an organized crime syndicate in Boston. And in the very first scene in the movie, she assassinates somebody, and we find out that there was a child in the apartment when she assassinated father. Skip forward and we find out that she has sort of been keeping tabs on the kid and ends up bringing him into her house and saving him, if you will, from the life that he was doing, where he was also being like a low-level drug runner. Bringing him in causes different kind of aspects for how her crime syndicate works and creates problems between Taraji Henson and Billy Brown, who plays her ex-lover, who's also a higher-up lieutenant in this crime syndicate. And basically it's about trying to keep like this motherly thing about watching over this child who she feels a little bit responsible for, and how the politics of the situation play out throughout the course of the movie. Now I'll say, this movie from the beginning sort of plays itself out as a blaxploitation film, much like Shaft or any of the other great 70s blaxploitation films. But this one just sort of seems to lose that luster along the way. It gives up on some of the tried and true elements of a blaxploitation film and just sort of, it becomes very much like a Hallmark movie in terms of how it's shot and how it just feels like they didn't have enough time or money to do the movie the way that it should properly be done. Babak Najafi did London Has Fallen, which I think is probably more of an indication of the kind of budget that he would need to actually create this kind of world. Again, not that London Has Fallen was all that amazing, but I would certainly put it higher up than this. This flick just had a ton of trouble. Number one, again, this is from my experience as a sound mixer, I sort of have a better ear for this sort of thing, but something tells me that Danny Glover does not like to be laved, and something tells me that they tried to boom him the best they could. But he also probably mumbles a little bit too much, because it looked like pretty much every single line throughout this entire movie by Danny Glover was ADR'd after the fact. And the ADR work was not good. And I'm not blaming either the sound mixer or the boom op or the ADR mixer or anything like that. This might totally be a Danny Glover problem. I on a film once, I was getting ready to lav up one of the actors, and the actor was like, no, I know what I'm doing, and I was still early on, so I was just like, all right, fine, whatever, you know what you're doing, and the mic got placed in the worst possible place. The actor had no idea what they were doing. I should not have taken their word for it. And the whole time I was basically just fighting the mixer, just trying to figure out any way I could to bring down the levels so that when it was scratching against the shirt it wasn't terrible, or when it was working I was trying to dial it in a little bit. But overall it was just a completely miserable experience from sound. And I imagine that similar stories could probably be told by the sound department on Proud Mary, just based off of Danny Glover. It was Godzilla level bad ADR at times, and the performance wouldn't match the vocal performance in the ADR booth was not matching the performance on screen, and it became very distracting. Other things that really bothered it like the script was all over the place. There was no character development. I didn't feel like I knew that Billy Brown and Taraji P. Henson's character were dating because they said it like 15 times, but they didn't set up her life at all. They didn't make me care about her at all as a character, and there were just lots of drop-in scenes where it just seemed like we would just be transported back to this place, but only for the purposes of continuing along whatever kind of a plot they had put together. It was all over the place. Other things like Taraji P. Henson just didn't run at all during the movie. Like there's these moments where you would be saying to yourself, if I was a hitman in this situation, I would be running. I'd be running to the car, I'd be running from the bad guys, I'd be doing whatever. She kind of lightly jogs, and I think part of that is because she's wearing these humongous heels the entire movie, and people aren't going to see Proud Mary like they saw Jurassic Park, the most recent Jurassic Park, but like all the people who complained about Bryce Dallas Howard and how ridiculous it was that she was running full sprint from dinosaurs in these massive heels. It was just as bad, if not worse, in Proud Mary. Only the difference was that Henson didn't actually at any point try to make the run. She just would sort of like jog as much as she could in the heels and then call it a day. It just seemed like the whole thing was... I think if I could say anything, to boil it all down, it just feels way more Hallmark TV movie than it does actual theatrical release movie. And even though blaxploitation films themselves are sort of seen more favorably looking back upon them than they were at the time. I mean, none of the blaxploitation movies were ever really that incredible. They were certainly were never on the level of films that would be nominated for awards during the same period, but that oftentimes these movies were working with way less resources than films that would be usual awards fare. But in today's media landscape, in today's entertainment industry, it's even Hallmark movies look good. The problem is that Hallmark movies don't have the great script, or don't have A-list directors, or don't have stars. This movie has, a certainly capable director and very capable stars, but no script, no backstory, no... I could tell you that Taraji P. Henson is named Mary. She lives in a amazing apartment that somehow she's been able to launder enough money to get, and has an incredible set of clothes. Like it, I know nothing about what her life is really like, because they never bother to try and tell you. Do you hear that? It's leaderboard time! This is the 7th time that I've seen a movie at Regal LA Live since we started doing these reviews. So another notch there on the leaderboard for Regal LA Live. And then Rob and I had a discussion about it leaving, and he declared Fast and the Furious rules apply for Proud Mary. So on the regular leaderboard, I'm going to give Proud Mary a 5.2, but there is the Fast and the Furious leaderboard.
Drop. Too fast. Drop. Too furious.
So on the Fast and the Furious leaderboard, I really don't know what extra points I'm given to this movie, because it just didn't... I'm sure the action and stuff like that was fun enough, but it wasn't... It wasn't enough to go say like oh fuck the plot, just enjoy the action. No, this movie was just pretty mediocre the whole way through. So on a Fast and the Furious adjusted scale, I'll give it a 5.5. Anyway, that is it for me. If you want more, CoryBakerFilmmaker.com is the place you want to go. On Facebook /CoryBakerFilm. On Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat @LegendCB5. You've watched this whole thing, so why not give me a like down there, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please, if anybody maybe you saw Proud Mary and had a debate with somebody and then said Danny Glover's ADR was all fucked up. And now you've heard me say it and you go like, oh shit, and now you want to share it to a friend. Please, by all means, do that. It helps spread the word. But that is about it. If you don't mind, I have to go continue being a bad mother. Shut your mouth.